Welcome to today's forum, which is going to be talking about hybrid courses or flipping courses, blended courses. They go by all these different names. And we are very lucky to have Sarah Kahn here leading the discussion. She and Neil Parker spent the last several years flipping their course. So she's going to kind of walk us through that, and we'll talk a little bit about what you can reasonably do for the fall semester versus, the intensive work that she did over the last few years. So with that, I will stop talking and turn it over to Sarah.
Thank you, Beth. Good afternoon, everyone. And it took me a while to get things together. And we're talking about 2 years worth of work that underwent a lot of testing, and we just tried to figure out what's the best way to create a standard course into a hybrid course. I will be using an example, one of the courses that we took hybrid in the past few years. And I caution you all, when we talk about hybrid, everybody have a different approach. What I will try to do is I will share my learnings that I wished I knew before going into this process. That's why it took so long. And hopefully those learnings and insights would help you use some of the strategies while going hybrid in the fall. I do have shared some resources with Beth, and I would strongly encourage questions. I do have some slides with some examples. I'll go through them. It kind of helps to build the foundation and to make sure that I have everything in place that I want to tell. And then please jump in at any time if you have questions about your course, if you have questions about the examples I'm sharing. I'll be happy to answer those. So that being said, I'm going to share my screen as soon as Beth is going to allow me to share my screen, because I can't seem to share it now. Let's see. We're going to give it a moment.
Be good now, Sarah. Sorry.
All right. Yeah, got it. Okay, so here we are. And let me go into full screen mode. It's always better. So as Beth said, there are several names about hybrid course, but I want to clarify that all these terms, hybrid, flipping, and blended, they overlap, but they're not entirely the same thing. Hybrid basically means that you are making use of all the learning paths or learning possibilities in your course. Flipping is categorically saying allowing students to prep before coming to class, so you can help them understand the topic better. And blended learning is a very close cousin of hybrid, which means using online and in-class experience, typically online and in-class experience to help students learn in a better way. We're going to use it interchangeably. It's a lot easier. That's what I do, because at the end, whatever strategy you come up with, you eventually have one part or the other of these terms. So I just wanted to say it out loud up front. So I'm going to jump in with one of the most important things about hybrid teaching or hybrid course design. So a hybrid course design focuses on, or depends on, let me put it this way, on what we call it as the key objectives of your course and the learning paths that you choose to take. Now, I'm using the example of Business 340, the Management Information Systems course that is required by most of the undergraduate students at PCOM. We have 3 key objectives, and for each key objective, we identify the learning path and the assessment method. Why do we do that up front before going into designing hybrid? Is because once you have a clear picture of how you are capturing each key objective, it allows you to make decisions in a better way in terms of what do you want students to learn on their own, what do you want them to do in class, and how can you make their experience in a better way. Business 340 is an intense course. We do not have a very classic continuity in topics. Every week, students are learning something new about technologies. It's a very fast-paced course. That is why the design of this course took longer than we expected. But depending on how complex your course is, how many key objectives you are trying to achieve, and how many learning paths you are using, eventually your hybrid design will end up capturing that. Just to identify, if you see something in purple on the right-hand side, I'm just using the color palette here. Purple means they're considered as a learning path as well as an assessment method, where actually students are getting graded on whatever they're doing. So before I move on, so let me give you a brief background about Business 340. It was a standard 3-credit-hour course, still is, where we used to meet twice a week in the classroom for 75 minutes each session. And the course was designed accordingly, and a lot of work was done in the class. Now, before going hybrid, we already had that course in a flipped design, where students were required to do some work already, and we called it as a homework. Before coming to class, there was more homework before coming to class than we would assign after class. The reason being is there are some things that are easy to understand, and when they'll come into class and we'll apply those concepts, it was more beneficial for the students. So that kind of worked for us when we were going hybrid in this new design. So when we went hybrid, the first thing that we had to do was identify, or in terms of time management for the students, because one thing that we have to be careful about in hybrid is that we don't want to end up assigning too much work to the students before coming to class, so they get overwhelmed by it. And also, we want to make sure that whatever they're doing before coming to class, or in the online part, or on their own part, that translates well into what they're going to be doing inside the class. And that's where the flipped approach comes in, to make sure that the key objectives of the course are being met. So I'm going to be using some infographics. These infographics, with the help of the great Delta team we work with, they helped me design those, and I've already shared those with Beth, and she will share with everyone. We are using a weekly learning cycle, where it's 7 days, and we divide the 7 days week into 3 sections. And students are shared this infographic up front, where we tell them that there's going to be significant online learning, and they will have up to 4 days before the class day, which is right here, where they're going to be, they have to catch up with whatever they need to do online. When they come into class, a 75-minute session, we do something relevant to what they've been learning online. And then we encourage them to do their after class exercises, and we just give them an estimate that you have up to 2 days to do that. How this infographic works is it allows students to be able to manage their time upfront accordingly on a weekly basis. And we didn't have that in the first year, but once we introduced that, after going hybrid, after 2 semesters, we did see a significant improvement in students being able to manage their time. One of the caveats of hybrid is, or one of the challenges of going hybrid, was how to motivate and encourage students to complete work before coming to class, or at least complete work which was assigned online. So to overcome that challenge, among other things, the next step we do in hybrid design is we use the online learning module only for building basics. Anything that students can do on their own. It can be a chapter reading, a simple, easy to follow videos where they can watch something and do it on their own, on their computers. We put all that in the online learning module. Then when they come to class, the expectation is that whatever they've been learning online, we go one step ahead in terms of either application or introducing a more challenging topic in class. So they can utilize their online learning into in-class application. And then finally, we do assign on a regular basis some practice problems. At the least, there is a review session where students are encouraged to review what they have done in their online learning and in-class learning. That way we complete our weekly cycle. Now, the next step is how to manage students' expectations, because students, when we went hybrid for the first time, one of the foremost questions, and I still get them on the first day of classes, is does hybrid mean that I have to work a lot more on my own? And to answer that question, we also introduce or share this infographic with the students where we tell them that based on our experience or expectations of how many hours a week we expect an average student to spend on this course, with the caution that every student have their own learning pace, and by no means it represents that every student will end up spending 8 hours a week, but we do expect on average students do spend 8 hours a week on this course. Traditionally, in a traditional design, students used to spend about 4 hours prepping for the upcoming class, and then the 2.5 hours was the in-class sessions and 1.5 hour for after-class practice. And we just took that 1.5 hour and added to online course materials in the hybrid design to help them manage their expectations. Now, this also allowed me and my team to ensure that we don't end up assigning too much work to the students for their online prep. It had happened a few times where we ended up assigning a bit more work than students were willing to handle, and it was just a hit and try at that point, but it wasn't that big of a deal to handle there. So, and this infographic also upfront tells students that every week they have to do something online before coming to class. We will be doing something in the class, and then there's going to be some work expected from them to do after class. And whichever module, whichever part of the module they are working on, they will have continuous help in the form of online forum. We use Piazza for this class, where everybody can talk to each other, and our TAs are available as well as instructors are available for them to help them out, especially for the online and after class learning materials. I just want to stop here, and I just want to see if anyone has any questions about the hybrid design and how it's been done in Business 340.
Yeah, Sarah, I have a question.
Sure.
First of all, this is very interesting. I'm really intrigued with how you've laid everything out. How do you, could you say more about how you incentivize students to engage fully in those online activities in that 4-day period that precedes the actual in-class day?
That's a very good question, and that is my next topic that I'm about to cover. So if you just bear with me for a minute, and you highlighted one of the biggest challenges in a hybrid design, even in an online design, how to incentivize students to come prepared to the in the class or before coming to class. And let me just go ahead and answer that before I share the Moodle setup. To ensure student engagement, the first and the foremost, we did several things, and we still are, and they're all doable. They do not require a lot of time to set up. The first thing we focus on is we have a comprehensive course introduction package introduced in our Moodle page during the first week. It's a combination of, if most of you are familiar with the concept of a Moodle book. So in a Moodle book, it's one link where students can have multiple pages and they can go through them and see what information they need to know about the course. And that introduction package is a mix of text as well as some videos that we developed for this course. And then to make sure that these students understand the different aspects of a hybrid design, everyone has to take a brief quiz, which is for credit. The next thing we did to incentivize these tasks is we gamified. We are currently using gamification module on Moodle, but you don't necessarily have to use gamification in order to incentivize students. We are also, to make sure every student know where they are in terms of learning, we use learning fitness logs, and I'm going to talk about learning fitness log in just a moment and what they are. But briefly, a learning fitness log is at the end of every week, we have a 2-minute quiz or a 2-minute survey that every student has to fill with standard set of questions, and every week they have to answer the same set of questions, and that allows students to understand that how comfortable they are with the topic, among other things, and if they're facing any challenges. And we're also using online forum. Now, going back to another thing about incentivizing online work is we found out that if we assign something to the students to do it online and to not put any stakes or associate any stakes with it, students tend to ignore it. So that's one way for us to incentivize online work, and that is reflected in a typical week on a Moodle that students look at. I just took a snippet from a spring course where students are required to read a chapter, watch some videos, follow the video, and solve a problem and submit it. And they're also quizzed on their reading and whatever they're watching. So all these things that they're doing and submitting are for credit. And when I say for credit, they have a significant grade associated with it. Some students tend to ignore it in the first couple of weeks, and when they get their continuous feedback, they quickly find out when they look at their grade book that they really have to make sure that they complete their work before coming to class. Another way to incentivize is that the way we tie in the in-class work with the online work. If a student has not done the online work, the problem that we assign in the class, it's going to make absolute no sense to them. And that's another way students learn really fast, that they have to work on their online materials before coming to class, because they are expected to submit their in-class work for credit as well. And if they don't submit it on time, then they're losing points there as well. So these are the few strategies that we use to incentivize students in order to engage into online learning. And we keep a track of how many students are watching the videos, as well as how many people have submitted work on time. Now, because we have come so far, it takes us about a week, or students about the first 2 weeks, to adjust to this design. And they learn really fast that they have to do their online work on time. So that was a good question. Yes.
Sorry, there's a question in the chat asking about what the blue books are.
Okay, good question. So our textbook for this course is enormous, and it has a lot of concepts in it. We don't allow, and this snippet I took is from the spring before the school closed down. So students are encouraged to take notes in the standard blue book that is sold in the bookstore. It's a 8-page, 16-side notebook, and students are allowed to bring only that blue book into the exam to attempt the exam. So they are free to take any kind of notes as long as they're handwritten into the exam room to do that. We have moved from blue books now, especially for fall, because there won't be any way to administer whether students are using blue books or other resources. So now our exams have changed. They're open book, open notes, and we are going into different strategies to control for better proctoring for online exams. All right.
And one more question.
Sure, go ahead.
Alan asked, how do you track the watching of the videos?
So we are using YouTube. right now to host all our videos because their video content is so much. And if you have a YouTube channel, which is free of cost, then you can pull up the analytics that how many students have watched that video. Now, MediaSite has better statistics because it breaks it down even further for you to view. When we were testing these two platforms, MediaSite, I mean, it was just, I think, at that time, YouTube performance was better for our students than MediaSite, so we switched to YouTube to host our videos, and that's where we pulled the statistics off.
Yeah. So Alan, I do want to address the second half of your question, which was, do the videos have to be hosted in Moodle? Actually, the contrary, you don't want to host videos in Moodle because it's not a streaming server. So it's recommended you put them either in a MediaSite locker, on YouTube, or Google Drive actually does stream now, so you can put them there, and then you can link to all these places from either as a URL within Moodle, or if they're in the MediaSite locker, then there's a tool within Moodle now that lets you link and pull directly the videos links with the little MediaSite symbol.
Yes, that's a great
Erica,
point.
I don't know if you saw Sarah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Erica asked why you use Piazza instead of Moodle.
So at that point, so much was going on, and we were looking for a tool for which we had the most feedback. And from College of Engineering, we had a really good feedback about Piazza in terms of from instructors' perspective as well as from the students' perspective. And Delta team got me in touch with those faculty members, and I talked to them. Those classes, they were teaching Introduction to Programming, not exactly the same, but very similar to what we are teaching in this course. And also the layout of Piazza is simple to follow. It is really easy to set up, and it's extremely easy to manage. It's a lot less steps involved in setting it up and making it available for the students, and it's easy for students to start following Piazza as well. So it was just a judgment call at that time that we started using Piazza. And once we set up a class for every semester, it's basically Business 340, started off at 10 sections, and I think in the fall we have 6 sections this time. So there are a lot of students. Everybody's following a pretty standard syllabus, and we really want them to talk to each other when they're solving the challenging problems. And another challenge that we wanted students to help each other out with was the technical difficulties they face with their technology. And we were surprised to see that quite a bit of students are really good about troubleshooting the technological issues in this course. So that was the reason why we use Piazza. All right. So let me just wrap it up with some insights about ensuring student engagement. I've already talked about these, but talking to Beth yesterday, she highlighted a very important point. What is practical for this fall? Because you don't have to do everything that we did in order to make your course not only hybrid, but make it successful. So these are my inputs that are important for you to think about before going hybrid, and that might help you improve the quality of your course and your students' experience while going hybrid. The first thing is identify the learning paths and how many ways you typically have your students learn. And when I say learning path, it includes everything from reading and watching videos, doing projects, everything. That will allow you to go to the second step, which is making a decision between what work you think they can do online and as a prep before coming to the class to benefit from the class topics. In the expectation management, I did not made it clear, but we repeatedly tell students that we will not repeat we will not use the in-class time to repeat anything that's been done online. So students are responsible to do their work that was assigned to them online in their own time, and they're expected to complete it, understand it, and troubleshoot whatever problems they're having before coming to class. That's why they have 4 days to do it. If they fail to do that, that they're going to lag behind significantly in this class. And this expectation, when we tell these things to the students, it works. It works for the students to understand the importance of the online work. Incentivizing online work is really, really important, as the question was raised before. And how we incentivize the online work is by assigning some kind of grade point to those. Going online right now, when we went online and going hybrid in the fall, we have actually increased the grade for online work a little bit more for students in order to make sure that those students are not only doing work on their own, but they're also doing work on time. Good thing about technology is we can, whatever they submit, we can actually track with less difficulty whether it's original work or not, because every file they create, it has author information. So that also plays in our favor. The plagiarism, the chance of plagiarism is not as much, and we don't give too tight deadlines to them, so students don't end up rushing, completing their online work and trying alternative methods to do work and submit their online work. Then the after-class reviews are exceptionally helpful, because we focus not only on the after-class reviews in not only helping students to review what they've learned, but also to set expectations for their upcoming assignments and exams. So, and we like to conclude every week on the note that going forward, what should they expect in the exam, and whatever work they have done this week, how it's going to help them in their concentrations in PCOM as well as in their practical life. And we have had a generous amount of students that graduated from Business 340 who are in touch with us, and they keep talking to us from time to time and sharing their experiences about different topics they have learned in this class and how it helped them in their careers. And then finally, clear course expectations is the key. If we tell students up front, not only about the design, but what is expected out of them, and in case if they don't do what is asked of them, what are the repercussions, it allows students to really take it seriously. And I think that's it from my side. Now, anyone has any question, and I would really like to know if somebody has good input about this design. It's an ongoing process. Every semester we do something different, but we use this general framework to make changes.
So while we wait for people to gather their thoughts, I will say Carlin was asking what the badge system is all about.
Okay, that's a good question. So Carlin, and that again, it's that was with the help of Delta team. If you remember, and let me just share my screen one more time in this case. If you remember, this is our Moodle setup for every week, and these check boxes that you see on the right side, every student who is doing the tasks that are assigned to them online, in class, or after class, if they do it on time, they earn points. The badge system works very similar to if you play any online game, that if you're progressing well, that you get higher badges representing that you're doing good. And that's very similar to what we're doing here. We encourage students to complete their work even if they're late. So if they complete their work after the deadline, they still get some points, and they're assigned a different badge for that, but to represent that they did work, but they were late, and then they can see their progress that way as well. There are two kinds of badge systems we are using in our game. One is for our gaming, where every student earns 3 badges every week, one for online learning, one for in-class, and one for after-class, depending on how correctly and quickly they did their work. And also, and let me just hover over it. Under in-class learning, we have the learning fitness log, a brief survey that I mentioned that every student is encouraged to participate in. We have a very small amount of grade assigned to it. It's not significant, but if we just highlight it as if the students are at a brink of a great change. So this little effort can help them with that. And this fitness log also comes with different badges. A student who has been comfortable learning throughout the semester gets a badge, and we have a little learning champion badge for them. And then students who are a little lagging behind, they have a different badge. So we have 3 to 4 categories of those badges. This gamification and learning fitness log took us that was the thing that took us the most amount of time to implement. But honestly speaking, coming up with the structure and assigning our online and in-class tasks for the students, that was not a lot of work. And I think it is manageable for anyone to do as long as they know and they can figure out the progression between the online learning and in-class learning. So I hope I answered the question. All right. Any other questions? I really hope I haven't overwhelmed the viewers, because I know it's a lot, but hopefully it's helped to some extent to everyone to take away some things and implement in their Moodle page.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize that Sarah's course is an exemplar course, right? This is one of the best of the best. So no one should aspire. Well, let me rephrase. You can aspire to this. I don't think anyone should try to achieve this for fall, but I think it's a great example of how, for those of our classes that are going to be hybrid 50 or hybrid 33, and we only have the students in the room once a week versus twice a week or whatever, what you can do to move learning online, and then the time that you spend with them is more enhanced so that they feel like there's a reason they're putting themselves at risk.
That is correct. And let me add to Beth's point. While it took us a lot of time to do Business 340, in the spring, part of the spring when we had to go online, I had, and I'm still converting my other course, Business 444, into hybrid. And honestly, it's taking me a lot less time and effort to do it now. I know it's the learning curve aspect as well. I have the templates. I know what to do. I can just import modules. But the key in going hybrid is, as I said, identifying or matching learning paths with key objectives, and then assigning tasks on the online and in-class modules, and making those transition and connections between online and in-class seamless, so students can make sense that what they're doing online, they have to do it, and if they don't, their whole week is kind of going to waste.
I wonder if it would be possible to get access to maybe an old previous semester's Moodle site just to see the whole setup. Is that possible?
Absolutely.
I mean, are you amenable?
I can do that, but let me caution you that it can be overwhelming as well. But I think, Beth, the best way would be if you can find a way, whoever is interested in looking at that Moodle site, and share those names with me. And I think you are also, I have also shared that one of the Moodle pages with you, so you can just go ahead and add those people if you can, whoever is interested to look at those pages or website.
Is everything in Moodle? Is it a Moodle site or is it a media site?
So everything, students interact with Moodle only at this point. So our YouTube videos are embedded into Moodle. The links are embedded. Piazza links are embedded into Moodle. So it's like a one-stop shop for the students. Now for fall and summer and fall, our textbooks went online. So the link to the textbook is embedded in Moodle. We also use a third-party tool to train our students on Microsoft Excel to advanced level, and that's a self-paced module. And the link to that website where the simulator is also embedded in Moodle. And so we consider Moodle as a one-stop shop for students to access anywhere they want to for this course.
So Sarah, we'll work together after the session to get people added to your old course. It's not something that I can do, but I can certainly help walk you through
Absolutely.
how to do it.
Sure, I'll be happy to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so anybody who wants access to an older version of the course, please either drop your name in the group chat now, or you can email me and we'll work on that.
Sarah, do you ever get pushback from students, or what sort of problems? What's your worst problem with students in this course design?
Well, that's a great question. I was waiting for somebody to ask me that question, and we had a lot more problems in our first year than in the second year. And the biggest problem is the expectations management. It's a new design. Typically, students do not have the experience with hybrid, and they tend to take the online work lightly. And that is why I kept emphasizing on the point, incentivize the online work. And students are worried about their grade. And if incentivizing means assigning some part of the grade to online work, that helps. Also, another problem for us is initially we thought not having hard and fast deadlines is going to give students flexibility to work through the semester. But at the undergraduate level, since we have so many students and such a good spread of students, we figured out that having hard deadlines and policies about deadlines encourage students to complete their weekly cycle on time. You can, of course, go in and listen to students on a case-to-case basis if they are late on submitting their online work, especially. But and especially the self-paced module that I talked about, the Excel training, students, we observed that students were just leaving that for the last week of the semester, and they would just do it in 3-4 days straight without understanding what they were doing. And we started putting hard deadlines on self-paced and online materials, and then incentivizing them through grades. So that was one of the biggest problems. And we also caution our students, and the good thing about Moodle is you can see the progress of the students every week. And if a student is not comfortable with the design, which is pretty easy to follow now because all they have to do is click on several links and follow the instructions on each link and watch the video. But if they're not following it, you as an instructor will figure it out and see it, because they might not be submitting work on time, they're not taking quizzes on time, and in the first 3 weeks, it becomes evident who is having trouble with this design and who is comfortable. So I would say that's the biggest challenge, getting students' expectations managed and getting them comfortable with the course design.
So Sarah, I think you may have touched on this when we were talking yesterday. I can't remember if you talked on it today. Can you talk a little bit more about how you do your participation grades for things like watching the videos?
That's a good point. So the videos that students watch, most of the videos, they are like watch, and not only watch and learn, but they are at the end, the video asks them to create something, to do something. So it will be a problem that they'll be solving, and not only doing that, taking notes about that problem. So a good example would be we do a linear programming. We start with our semester with that. It's a challenging concept for students. Most of them have no background of linear programming. So the videos contain a step-by-step. It's multiple set of videos. We don't have everything in one video. And that's another thing I would like to highlight. Don't make large videos. Just divide your videos in 4, 5, maybe 6 minutes snippets that and put them in progression that students can watch one video after the other. It just helps them in a better way. And at the end of the video set, they are supposed to create something and submit it for grade. And that's participation grade right there. Also, once the online content is at the end of the online content, every week they are expected to take a brief quiz. We have about 14 quizzes that happen throughout the semester, and they have, I won't say a significant grade, but enough grade to determine if a student is not performing well on those quizzes. It does affect their overall grade. So, so that's how the participation is captured. Now, in traditional hybrid, we also had in-class attendance that was mandatory, and Moodle attendance is a great way to take attendance. But going into fall, I think we will not be relying on it too much, because as of now, we don't expect everyone to come to class. But again, whatever they're supposed to do in class, if a student is choosing to do it online in the fall, their submission for that part is considered as participation. And same is for after class work.
Sarah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. This has been very valuable. I have a question to you. Can you be a little bit more specific regarding like what activities you bring into the classroom and what you do for online besides like your videos? Because I'm thinking about my course now, and I'm wondering, like, since classroom time, face-to-face time is so valuable now, what should I emphasize? What should I take into the classroom?
That's a good question, and ultimately it boils down to the judgment call of the faculty, what they're trying to do. And before I answer that question, when I was designing Business 340 or converting my other course into hybrid, if I'm doing 2 separate topics in a week, that was the biggest challenge, that which topic to choose to take it online and which topics to bring it in class. So to give you an example of how we make a decision is, and it might require you to maybe change a content a little bit. Maybe if you're using 2 concepts in a week, traditionally, you might want to simplify one of the concepts that can be simplified and put it online, and then in class you might want to review that concept if it needs to be reviewed in a context that you've been doing traditionally, and then introducing it's a challenging topic that is still relevant, but according to your judgment, it requires instructors' intervention for the students to understand it better. So to give you an example from Business 340, when we introduce linear programming, when students watch the video, it's an easy to follow video, a very simple Excel setup that they do and submit. And when they come to class, we pick a similar problem from the same category of linear programming, but it has additional challenges associated with it, which requires students to think about them before implementing them and solving the problem. And some students are able to do it seamlessly. Majority of the students do have to think and talk to each other and figure out how to do that. And some students who are eventually about to give up, they are suggested to go back, watch the videos again. They still have the whole day, and then try to attempt the in-class problem. And if they can't do it, they can always reach out to other classmates through Piazza or the TAs. So, and that's why my point earlier, the weeks we had a good progression of understanding a simple concept on your own and applying it in class has been proven to be a better experience for the students as compared to the weeks where we had 2 related but different concepts introduced, part of it online and part of it in class. As long as students can make a connection between what they've been doing online and what they're doing in class, it makes it a lot easier for the students to understand the concept.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Hey, Sarah, Robin here. I'm just curious, because you were talking about the blue books that y'all used pre-COVID. I assume your exams are now online. Excuse me. I assume your exams are all now online.
They are online. That's
What kind
right.
of time window do you give your students to take their exam?
So that's a great question, Robin, and we are still playing with a few ideas at the moment. We have played around with the idea. We typically have 4 exams in this class. None of them are comprehensive, and because we have 4, what we call it as learning themes in the class regarding technology, so it kind of helps students not get overwhelmed with a lot of work when it comes to exams. We have played around with the idea of reducing the number of exams. We have played around with the idea of open book, open notes exams, but we have also played around with replacing exams with projects, which is easy to do in a technology course. But because of the sheer amount of students we have, and also students use such a various nature of technologies, and their laptops are breaking down from time to time when they're trying to run a solver or something, we have to consider all those points. So right now, our open book, open notes exams are now, we are thinking about reducing the time frame for those exams, as well as using the browser lockdown for the students to take their exams. We still are evaluating the merits of whether everyone should take the exam at the same time on the same day. We still, as I said, we are playing around with these ideas because traditionally all our exams were taken care of by Delta Testing Center. So we kind of have to replicate that and come up with a better way for the students to take the exam. And with the textbook going digital, it becomes very easy for the students to look up the content in if the browser is not locked down. So that turns out to be a must. That wasn't a challenge in the spring because until spring, the textbook was not in a digital format, but in fall it's going to be. So at the least, the browser lockdown is going to be there. Making an exam open book, open notes. Well, when I say open book, open notes, it's going to be an open notes exam because they won't have access to their textbook. We are expecting students to perform on the same level as they used to with traditional testing. So we encourage students now. In the summer, I have played around with this idea a little bit. Instead of asking students to fill their blue book, students are asked to take notes on their chapter readings when they're reading a chapter. And I've also used a function in Moodle. It's called Poole, where for every chapter reading, I have recorded a summary, a voice summary of a chapter, which gives them a rundown in 5 to 7 minutes of what this chapter is about and the key concepts in the chapters that are covered. And if there is a difficult concept in there, I just go in depth of that a little bit. I don't use a video or PowerPoint slides because I don't want to overwhelm the students. Some students have liked that idea. They would listen to that kind of a podcast of me giving them a rundown of a chapter, and when they start reading it, things make a little more sense to them and it helps them take notes in a better way. So bottom line is we are still playing around with some ideas, but I'll be happy to share my finalized idea with you. So I think we have another question about, is Piazza compatible with Moodle from Christopher? So if I have to, so let me go ahead and quickly, it's going to take a minute to show you how Piazza looks like. And I think I have an example from the summer. So is Piazza compatible with Moodle? The only thing in Piazza you need to do is to embed a link to Piazza class that you've set up. And every time a student is going to click on that link, it's going to take them to the page for your class. So this is how Piazza looks like. And this is my summer course. As you can see, It's pretty straightforward, and students are encouraged to post new posts. They can search. So basically, what happens is if a student has asked a question and I have answered it already, and another student asks me a question in the email, all I say is go and look at Piazza. I don't have to repeat myself again and again answering the same question, and students can go back and search the topic they're looking for, and all the conversations going on in Piazza kind of becomes an FAQ or a repository of answers. Students are highly discouraged to post anything personal on Piazza, and being an administrator, we can monitor it. Also, I have disabled, there is an option called anonymous post. I have disabled it, so every student who posts here, we can identify who is posting it on this forum. So students are also conscious about what they're posting here. So typically students, if they have a question about the course design, if they have a question about the current homework problem that they've been assigned, they will post it here. Even if they post answers for the homework problems, it doesn't matter in our course, because it's the whole experience of how to understand a problem and set up in order to get an answer is what matters. So that's why Piazza kind of helps for us. We also have TAs assigned in this course, so TAs monitor Piazza as well. And the good thing about Piazza is now I get a lot less emails about course content, especially in the online, when I'm teaching online this summer. And this is the dashboard where I can see that how many posts I have, how many students are enrolled. So, so this has been very helpful and very simple to use.
And Sarah, do you use the plugin in Moodle to type Piazza to Moodle, or you just put the URL in?
I just put the URL in there, and I think in my slide set, it's a simple URL. Every time you create a class in Piazza, like as an instructor, and you can do it because it's through NC State, we have access to this service. So NC State supports Piazza. So when you go into Piazza, you create a class, and it gives you a unique URL for your class, and that's the unique URL you share or embed in your Moodle page. And in your syllabus, you can embed that link as well. There are, so if a student clicks on that link for the first time, they get enrolled in that class as a student, and you can monitor the roster. You can also manually enroll students as an instructor in Piazza as well. So it's just, when I said it's a very, it's an easy process of setting up as an instructor and for the students to follow. It really is.
Would it be possible for you to show us the student search, like if they were searching for something in Piazza real quick?
Sure, I can definitely do that. So let me pull it up.
Got to see how user-friendly it would be for them versus the forum.
Absolutely, and let me just start share one more time.
Sorry.
So this is a summer course. We are almost halfway. So let's say if students are looking for lawnmower problem. So because every homework problem has a name, so they will see that there are 2 posts about the lawnmower problem. And since this is a short semester, there's not much content in it, but in a traditional semester, we have about hundreds of posts. So, and every post, when student is posting it, or if I have posted something for them, either as an announcement or as a challenge for them to tackle or giving them a hint, they can just type in the name of the homework or the title of the topic, and it will just pull up. And of course, while you as an instructor is monitoring Piazza, you would know if a topic is in Piazza discussion forum or not before telling the student that they can go and search for it over there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Sarah, this is Scott. You made a comment about you got lots less emails. So are you directing them not to send you emails then? And you're sort of much directing them into Piazza? Because otherwise, I think they would naturally go to email. So how did you end up getting it here versus email?
That's a really good question. So in the introduction package, when we are going over it during the first week, first day of class, it's all about getting familiar with Moodle and the course design and taking the quiz at the end of reading everything. So there is a section, it's called etiquettes, where I clearly specify that for any personal problems or challenges, reach out to the instructor only. And for course-related challenges regarding homeworks, and if you want to get in touch with other TAs, professors, and you want a quick response as compared to an email or setting up an appointment, or you do not wait for the office hours, use Piazza. And students do not tend to use Piazza too much in the first few weeks, but as the exams approach, they are monitoring Piazza very carefully for the challenges they're facing. So when I say I get a lot less emails, I meant I get a lot less emails regarding clarification about the homework or confirming the answer for the homework. So much so now I don't even get as many emails about troubleshooting the technical problems students are having with their PCs. Students, they're so used to social media. They just go and post it on forum that anybody's having this trouble. And within a few minutes, somebody will respond to them saying, yes, I had the same problem, try doing this. And then most of the time without my or TA's intervention, the problem is solved.
And I want to very quickly follow up on say, even if you don't use Piazza, if you use the traditional discussion forum within Moodle, this is something we always recommend to all faculty, that you come up with an etiquette or communication policy that says how you want students to communicate with you, and always recommend having some kind of forum where students can answer questions for each other versus emailing you, unless it's personal. And you put this in your syllabus and reiterate it in your course. Even for courses that are meeting in person, it's a good idea because of what Sarah's saying. And I'll tell you right now that Bart Danielson, for his online course with undergrads, he even has an email signature that when he gets emails from students, like he browses them very quickly, and if it's not a personal related question, he just has a set email signature that says this needs to be posted to the class forum and sends that. So he's not having to type a reply every time. And the students learn very quickly that they will not get responses from him via email. We have, time's up, actually. Sorry, I took up the last second. If you have any remaining questions, please feel free to send them to me or Sarah, and we'll post them in the shared forum. I'm going to work with Sarah to get people added to an old version of her class. So if you didn't already let me know in the chat, please feel free to email. Thank you all for your time. Thank you especially to Sarah for this wonderful session and showing us what you've worked on so hard.
I was happy to do it, and thank you for attending this session. And I hope everybody gets you know, something out of it, because when we started this project, we had no benchmark. So, I'm not saying this is a benchmark, but hopefully it's going to help most of you some way or the other. That's the hope.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.